Veterans like you are just a burden, Judge Darrow yelled. Vietnam veteran William Carter had lost everything. Homeless and with nowhere else to go, he slept on City Hall steps. Judge Darrow called it trespassing and had him arrested. Now, William faced jail time with nowhere left to turn. But William had something the judge never saw coming. What happened next left the entire courtroom speechless, and Judge Darrow in handcuffs. Welcome to Legendary Stories. Comment below where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed. William Carter served 22 years in the United States Army. He fought in Vietnam through jungles and mud, wearing his stripes with pride. But his real pride was Margaret, his high school sweetheart. They married before his second tour. She wrote him letters during every deployment, lavender-scented and folded with care. When he finally returned, he promised her peace. A little house, a garden, Sunday dinners with their daughter Sarah running barefoot through the yard. It wasn't much, but it was theirs, until it wasn't. Cancer took Margaret from him. Slowly, then all at once. He sold everything to try and save her. The truck, his father's watch, even their wedding rings. None of it was enough. She slipped away on a cold November morning. He buried her with his own hands. But the worst was yet to come. For a while he held it together for Sarah. He took odd jobs, hauling scrap, mowing lawns, anything to keep food on the table. But the bills piled up faster than the work. Eviction notices came next. William and Sarah were left with nothing but a duffel bag, a photograph of Margaret, and that folded flag. The veterans' shelter became their refuge. It wasn't much, cracked walls, leaky ceilings, but it was warm. It was safe. But nothing good lasts forever, not in this city. Shortly after, the shelter was sold. Notices slapped on the door, condemned. Demolition scheduled. 2 days. That's all they were given. 2 days to clear out what little they had left. The city's approval stamp was on the eviction notice, signed by Judge Darrow. It was just a name then. But soon it would be everything. Some of the veterans vanished. William and Sarah ended up on the steps of City Hall, cold marble, thin blankets. William laid out his coat for her each night. It wasn't shelter, but it was something. The police came on a Thursday. Told him he couldn't sleep there. Called it trespassing. William didn't fight. He just brushed the frost from Sarah's hair and whispered, "Be brave." Sarah watched from the steps, clutching the photograph of her mother as her father was led away in cuffs. That's how William Carter found himself standing in the courtroom. His hands clasped in front of him, his shoulders pulled back. William Carter stood eye to eye with the very man whose name had signed his life away, Judge Darrow. William stood in silence. His back was straight, his gaze steady. It was the way his father had taught him. A soldier stands tall, even when the world tries to break him. Judge Darrow entered, black robes sweeping behind him. He had built a reputation on evictions, especially when it came to veterans. Shelters, support centers, low-income housing. If it involved former soldiers, his signature was practically guaranteed. Some said he saw them as relics, better swept away than supported. To Darrow, they weren't heroes. They were burdens. "Mr. Carter," Judge Darrow began, his voice flat, "you've been warned before. City Hall is not a residence. Those steps are not your home." William's hands tightened around the folded flag. His father's words echoed in his mind. A soldier fights for what's right, no matter where the battlefield is. William didn't flinch. He met Darrow's gaze head on. "I wasn't looking for a place to live," he replied. "I just didn't want to be forgotten." The room fell silent. Darrow's eyes narrowed. "Trespassing is trespassing, Mr. Carter. The law is the law." He leaned forward, his voice sharpening. "Veterans like you are just a burden," he spat, the words slicing through the room like a knife. "Taking up space, sleeping on steps that don't belong to you." William straightened his back. "And justice is justice." The prosecutor cleared his throat. "Your Honor, given the defendant's history of noncompliance, we recommend strict sentencing. It's time the city stops giving him a place to return to." Darrow leaned forward. "I could end this right now," he sneered. "Lock you away for good. No more steps, no more pity, just a cell and silence." His words hung in the air, but William wasn't finished. Not yet. He loosened his grip on the flag just enough to reach into his coat pocket. He could feel the worn edges of the papers. His eyes locked on Darrow. "You think you know everything," he said. "But you don't." The courtroom stilled. Darrow's eyes narrowed, studying William with something new, curiosity. "What is it you think I don't know?" Darrow's voice was colder now. William didn't answer right away. He took his time, unfolding the yellowed pages from his coat pocket. "It starts with this," he said quietly, holding up the first page. Darrow's gaze flickered to the paper, then back to William. "And what exactly am I looking at?" His tone was dripping with condescension. William stepped forward, just enough to let the judge see it clearly. "That's the eviction notice you signed. The one that took the shelter from me and my daughter. Signed and approved by you." Darrow's expression didn't change. "I sign hundreds of those. It's the law, Mr. Carter." William nodded, his eyes never leaving Darrow's. "That's what I thought at first, too. Just routine, just paperwork." He held up another page. "But then I found these." He set them down, one by one. Bank statements, transaction records, signed approvals. Darrow's name scrawled at the bottom of each. "You approved payments to developers, funded by kickbacks. I checked the city records." He tapped the papers. "These projects were never supposed to be approved." A murmur spread through the courtroom, whispers bouncing off marble walls. The prosecutor leaned forward, eyes squinting at the documents. "What are you getting at?" he asked, voice edged with doubt. William straightened his back. "You were paid to clear those shelters. Not just mine, all of them. You've been clearing out veterans for profit, signing away lives for a payout." His voice didn't waver. It cut through the room like a blade. Darrow's hands tightened on the edge of his bench. His expression darkened, but he didn't speak. Not yet. William's voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried. "You didn't just take my home. You sold it, and you sold every other veteran out there." The room erupted. Whispers turned to gasps, gasps to shouts. Reporters scrambled, pens scratching furiously across notepads. Judge Darrow's face flushed red, his jaw clenched tight. He slammed his gavel down. "Order!" he barked. But the room wouldn't settle. William remained steady, eyes locked on Darrow. "I'm not the only one who knows," he said, voice clear and unwavering. He reached back into his coat and pulled out a small stack of manila envelopes. "These are sworn testimonies, former city officials, people who signed your deals, people who were paid to keep their mouths shut." Darrow's grip on the gavel tightened, knuckles white. "Enough of this," he spat. "You're delusional, Mr. Carter." William shook his head. "No, I'm prepared." He handed the envelopes to the bailiff, who glanced nervously at Darrow before carrying them to the prosecutor's desk. The prosecutor rifled through the pages, his eyes growing wide. He whispered something to his assistant, who nodded and rushed out of the room. Darrow's eyes darted around the room, searching for an exit that wasn't there. "This is a farce," he hissed. "You think a homeless man has evidence of a conspiracy?" William took a step forward. "I think a veteran knows how to fight for what's right, even when the odds are against him." The prosecutor stood, voice booming. "Your Honor, I am requesting an immediate recess to examine this evidence. I believe there is enough here to warrant an investigation." Darrow's eyes flared. "I'm the judge in this court," he growled. "I will not be threatened in my own—" The double doors swung open. 2 federal agents stepped inside, badges outstretched. The gallery hushed to silence. One of them spoke firmly. "Judge Darrow, you are under investigation for conspiracy and fraud. You need to come with us." For the first time, Darrow's hands shook. The gavel slipped from his grip, clattering to the floor. William stood motionless, eyes fixed on the man who had taken everything from him. The agent stepped forward, cuffs in hand. "You can't do this," Darrow stammered. "I'm the law in this city." The agent didn't flinch. Not anymore. He locked the cuffs with a sharp click. The courtroom watched, silent, as Darrow was led away. William stood tall, the folded flag still clutched in his hand. He looked up at the gallery, at the veterans who had gathered silently in the back rows. They nodded, some with tears in their eyes. It wasn't just about him. It was about all of them. For the first time in years, William Carter felt the weight on his shoulders begin to lift. The news spread fast. Headlines splashed across every major outlet. Judge Darrow arrested for corruption. Veterans finally get justice. Reporters called it the biggest scandal in the city's history. But for William Carter, it was something simpler. It was finally having his voice heard. The veterans who had scattered after the shelter closed began to reappear. Some came back with duffel bags slung over their shoulders. Others came with nothing but a handshake and a smile. A community rebuilt, not through city funding, but through solidarity. Within weeks, City Hall announced plans to restore the veterans' shelter. Donations poured in from all over the country. Construction crews broke ground, and the veterans stood side by side watching as the walls went up brick by brick. William was offered a position on the city's new Veteran Advisory Board. His first act was simple: make sure no shelter was ever shut down again without proper cause. He wore a suit to the first meeting, a suit that had been donated by one of the very men he once shared a park bench with. He kept the folded flag in his office, right beside a photograph of Margaret and Sarah. And when the shelter finally reopened, William was there. He cut the ribbon with Sarah at his side, her hand gripping his tightly. Veterans cheered. Reporters snapped photos. William looked down at Sarah, then back at the crowd. "This isn't just a building," he said, voice strong and steady. "It's a promise that no one gets left behind." The crowd erupted in applause. Sarah looked up at him, eyes wide and bright. "Did we do it, Dad?" she asked. William smiled, his hand resting on her shoulder. "We did, sweetheart. We did. If William's story inspired you, hit that like button and share it with someone who believes that truth always finds its way. Which part hit hardest? Tell us in the comments. And if you want more stories of courage and redemption, subscribe. Because sometimes the fight for justice doesn't end on the battlefield.